12th, 1999. Okay, so I'm just going to leave this.
Yeah. Okay. So actually, when I can remember very vividly, it's working. When I met her, so I previously I mentioned how we arrived in '57, February 4th, to Winnipeg, leaving Hungary as a refugees. That time I had a 5 and 7 years old child. So, and we couldn't speak English at all. And we arrived in this cold weather we never even imagined. And we were put in the immigration hall. And shortly after, somehow the newspapers were notified that musicians came. We were a string quartet. We met in Vienna, and we already practiced. And my late husband was a trombonist, so 5 musicians arrived. So it was some interest for the city. And then we were still at the immigration hall, waiting something for our future will happen, something with us. Somebody told us that we should go down to the foyer because the Music Teachers Association would like to present us something and would like to meet us. So we went down, and there was Sonia, the only person I was able to talk to German, because that time I was fluent German and no English. And finding, after this whole escape and trauma we went through, finding here in this cold nowhere, we felt nowhere city, a European musician with whom I was able to talk, and then she represented this association of teachers, and it was a shower. Actually, I didn't know what a shower meant, and I was so moved. I think I was in my tears. How the Canadians, how kind they were to give us pots and pans and every household what you needed. I still have some dishes from that period. And it was very, very moving experience there. And it was somehow the friendship between Sonia and my family just grew from that moment on, because we still didn't speak English, and so she and Ferdinand invited us to her home, and then usually just I went and we had lunch together. What she never ever lifted her fingers in the kitchen. Ferdinand was the one who rushed home from his office and made the lunch for us and made the supper and everything but what you needed, because she was the star of the house. Yeah, and Ferdinand respected her fantastically. And so I felt, and then I started to know her as a violinist. She still played that time. I remember the first concert, it was with flute and violin duo with Paula Elliott, who is playing here in the Hamilton Orchestra, but that time was in Winnipeg. I think that was Paula. And so I heard her playing the violin. I think that was her last performance, because then she didn't want to perform anymore. But then I always was witnessing how she demonstrated the piano method that she had, a very unique method. And because I'm also playing the piano, so I was fascinated by the technique of rolling the hand and instead of using the fingers, and her whole being reminded me to my mother, who was a musician. She was a violinist and also teaching in a teacher's college, harmony and conducting. So whatever, she was a all-around, well-rounded musician. And she was the same height, small, and energetic. So I felt something so similar, full of life. I still can see and hear her smile and laugh. She had a humor, a sarcastic humor. Everybody would know about that. But so then we were just talking about music, teaching. That time she had Deirdre Iron, the pianist, with whom, when I had in New Zealand, I had concert tour, and I had a concert in Wellington, and she has the same picture in her house, in Wellington, and we were just talking about Sonia. So she learned a lot from her, and that she was like a daughter to her. And then she really appreciated my violin playing. So that was the reason that for the centennial, that was in 1967, so she asked me whether I would be interested to play if she writes this solo suite. And of course I always by that time I recorded Harry Summer's Sonata and Maria Daskin piece, and so I always right away I arrived to Canada, I wanted to promote Canadian works as much as I was in Hungary also the same. So I always felt that the contemporary composers must have an outlet and be heard. And so Sonia composed the solo suite for me, and also the piano trio. By that time...
Now, that was in 1967?
Yes.
The solo suite was 67?
Yeah,
and then the
trio.
Piano trio.
Only she didn't finish exactly 67.
Right.
Or the performance, the solo suite, I was already in Hamilton.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you came to Hamilton in 65. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but then I went back for the trio to perform. And I remember that 10 days before the concert, the original cellist, Clara Belkin, hurt her finger or hand, and she was not able to perform. And I forgot his name. I know it's on the record. I never met him before. The cellist from Edmonton, I think. He came, and like a miracle, within a few days he learned, and that recordings, actually that recording was the live performance of the first performance we did.
Of the trio.
Of the trio. And when I looked the score and I listened, I thought it was a miracle that it went so well. And the solo suite, she came, of course I was studying, so it's a very difficult piece. So, and then before the performance, she came a bit earlier to Toronto, and she came out to Hamilton, and and we had a few sessions together. So I knew how she felt, and I remember that she put metronome marks. And
Now this is for the trio?
That was for the solo suite.
Yeah.
And I tried to follow the metronome marks, and then when she came, she said, "Oh, it's too fast, too fast." I said, "But you put this metronome mark." So this shows again that sometimes a composer is putting this metronome mark. I know Bartók. You cannot follow because it must be at the desk when that person, the composer, and in life, approximately you can have a guideline, but it's not. And so I had to feel the way as I would have felt naturally without looking the metronome mark. But so she was, I never forget that. That was a CBC concert in Toronto. The St. Lawrence Center was renovated, and that was the first concert after the renovation. So it was a big event there. And
that was where the premiere?
Yes.
Of the
suite.
Of the suite.
Of the solo suite. The trio was in Manitoba.
Right,
yeah.
right.
Of the solo suite. Now I don't know which came before.
Right.
So you can make the research of that.
Yeah, right.
That was a long time ago. And I never forget, I needed 3 music stands because I didn't have not one bar, but not a half a bar rest to be able to page turn. It's 25 minutes, approximately, I think. It's the most demanding composition I ever learned or heard. That was her energy, the whole personality in that. Even the Pacific movement, the dream, the imagination. It's a unique work. I don't think so that many violinists will make their time to learn that because it's so difficult. But because of Sonia, because I adored her, because that was her, so I put my time and I really enjoyed it. And I never forget, after I finished, the public really appreciated. Usually a new work, it's so modern to the public ear that the first time they don't enjoy much. But this work was enjoyed. The same thing with the trio as well. Because of her energy, I think. And so I was taking those curtain calls, of course without curtain, but you call that. Mm-hmm. And I asked her to come on the stage, and then she just rushed. And you know what? She kissed my hand. I never forget. A composer, a woman. She was so happy, and she felt, so happy. She felt that I played the way as she dreamt it. And so, wow. Front of I don't know how many thousand people, she kissed my hand. I felt so embarrassed that time, but it was fantastic. So that was the solo suite. I don't. It's going on. The trio, I had to fly back to Winnipeg, so it could have been before the solo suite. Mm-hmm. I'm not so sure. Mm-hmm. And we had rehearsals there because I learned my part here, and I learned the score theoretically, but we never rehearsed with the cellist and with the pianist. So I think it was not more than 3 days then I stayed there. So we put very fast together. And also she was very happy. And probably I mentioned this, I'm sure I mentioned in the car, that she changed. During these rehearsals, she changed some chords. And I have, that's the only part I have.
Right.
I mean, the music center doesn't have the correction. And so a few months ago I heard the Griffin Trio played, and with the wrong chords and with the wrong notes, yes, because they got from there. Yeah.
Right.
So somehow I always felt compulsive just to correct, but I didn't know whom to call. But when you mentioned this is going to be published, it has to be changed.
Okay.
Because even other.
Yeah, I should get a copy of that from you today, even possibly, or because it was actually we were in contact with the editor Jack Behrens on even Thursday and Friday of this week.
But is he here in Toronto?
He's in London, Ontario.
Oh, London.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to give you to take the Manitoba.
No.
This is the only score
Right.
I have, so I would like to get it back after
Right.
the
Right.
corrections.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I will give it to you. Sure.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. Now, do you remember the very first time you met Sonia? Was it at this reception or the shower?
Yes.
At the
immigration hall. Yes.
And she was representing the Music Teachers Association.
Yes, that's right. And she was the only one I was able to talk to.
Because she spoke
German.
Now, you mentioned you came over with some other musicians.
Yes.
And they happened to be people you had performed with?
Oh, yes.
And what were their names?
I met Clara Bertrin, who is in Winnipeg.
Right. She came over with you?
Yes, on the same boat. Yes. And then we put together a string quartet in Vienna. So while we were waiting, coming to Canada, we were already had some concerts there.
So there was Clara Belkin, yourself.
Then also Ernest Kish, who was with the symphony, Winnipeg Symphony, until he retired. Now he went back to Hungary to live. But I understood that he regretted. So, but he sold everything here. So anyway, there's a classical story. Somebody goes back and is not happy. And then we had another musician, Kocsis, who went back to Germany, joined the Philharmonia Hungarica. But for quite a few years, we were together as a string quartet.
Okay.
And then my late husband, he was Antal Dvorak was the trombonist for the symphony and the CBC orchestra with Eric White.
Your husband was?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so he played in the symphony in Winnipeg.
Yes, for the 80s. Even when I left in 65 September, I started teaching, he still waited because he signed the contract with Victor Fabre, so he came only a year later, joined me here.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So these were all
interesting
musicians.
And in terms of the time that you were in Winnipeg, so for those 7 years, during that time, Sonia never actually wrote a piece for you, or did she?
No,
but it was after you left.
Yeah, but that was meant. Okay, yeah, she was planning while I was there.
Oh, okay. But it just took time.
But it took time, and it took the centennial like a project.
Right. There needed to be a reason for the commission.
Yes, a reason. Yes.
So both the solo violin concerto and the piano trio were centennial commissions.
Yes.
Yeah. And they were written for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Absolutely. And during your time in Winnipeg, you taught then at the university?
No,
Or
no. I really performed. So I had a trio with Clara and Chester Duncan. Then I played much solo with Ada Bronstein. Then we had a quartet. Also, I played with Peggy Sampson. It was Manitoba quartet. Part of the university, it was a string quartet.
Okay.
So I performed. I was a concertmaster of the ballet. We had lots of ballet performance. Then I had a series of television solo with Eric White. I remember those were on Sunday afternoons, 58, 57 fall, and going to 58. Every Sunday it was like a variety 1 hour program where I played my virtuoso encore pieces, and Eric White orchestrated for the orchestra from the piano score. And then there was a singer, there was something else, and that time was not taped. It was alive. So I remember it was nerve-wracking. Yeah, it was the most difficult pieces, and I was put in a corner, and then the camera. Then they said now, and then the camera just came, and so it was that every week. But the result was that after 1 year, we were able to build a home. And I put that as a down payment.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
So 58 summer.
So where did you live in Winnipeg? Did you?
Waverly Street.
Okay.
Yeah, River Heights.
So not very far from Sonia?
No,
very close.
Very close. And my children went to Montrose School and then the Grand Park High School. Yes. Oh, very close. So we were
neighbors.
And we were all, so very often we were together. I mean, I went to her place. I guess she never came to my place. I didn't have a piano.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
right.
That time.
Right.
Yeah.
So, what do you have any favorite recollections of the house, of their home, of 54 Harrow?
Yes. We were sitting always. There was the furniture beside the piano. It's this carved furniture from East.
From Spain.
Or from
15s.
Spain.
Spain. The chests.
The chests,
yes.
Gorgeous.
Yes.
And then there was the sound system somehow, so we were always listening something of her performance way back. And then the dining room, when the kitchen when we had the luncheon, and then also because Ferdinand was the Austrian consul that time, they had receptions, and we were always invited, and that was in Canada. Coming to Canada, those receptions, I felt very elegant, and meeting those people, and so I was part of it.
Right, and I assume too that it made you feel sort of more connected to your homeland.
Yes,
the Hungarian Austrian connection.
Yeah. So with Ferdinand, so we were very, very good friends.
Right.
And I remember that he called me so many times before he died even. He wanted to, so perhaps you can have, he wanted to put the solo suite on a record. Because the master tape, the CBC has the master tape. And
the master tape from the
CBC.
It's the performance, the premiere in Toronto.
Yes. And then I didn't know whom to contact. And then he said that you can put something else, some old, because I had so many CBC recordings, which right now it's on CD. So we restored all those LP recordings, not all of them, but it's on CD now. And now I can see the possibilities if the foundation would do something, because that was his dream. That's the only work is not on record or CD or something.
Is the solo violin?
Yeah.
Concerto.
Yeah, the solo suite. Suite number 4. And the performance, the same thing, like the piano trio, was also that one live performance was put on the anthology, the record. It was not a studio.
Right.
It was a live. So it could be done the same way, and perhaps the foundation could put on CD or something with others, even with the piano trio, because the piano trio is on LP. So you should restore this on a CD. Otherwise, it's wasted somehow. So that would be nice, the solo suite and the piano trio, and then perhaps the caprices or something.
Would you be prepared to do another recording of the solo suite at this point?
Way. No. I spent more than a year to learn that. I think more than a year.
Like it was the hardest piece that...
Yes. And then since that, I played twice in Winnipeg. Once I played, and Ferdinand was very happy, was something in Brandon. Was the anniversary also. And then I was talking about the analysis about, and then I performed.
Was it for the competition?
Yes.
Did you do a concert, a special competition, concert in conjunction with the Eckhardt-Gramatté competition?
That could be, yeah.
Yeah.
It could be that. That was the second time I performed, and that was not so much farther time than when I learned. So it must have been, but still okay. I didn't spend that much time.
Right.
And then once more, that was CBC, also in the art gallery in Winnipeg.
You performed the solo suite again.
That was the third time with other works. Oh, with Ada Bronston, I remember, because I have the tape, but the CBC, I guess, didn't carry that part of the concert, because not the whole concert, so that wasn't, I guess. But the rest, Respighi Sonata and something else with the print. That was the last time. And that time, already I felt I had to work so much that
to keep it up.
Keep it up. But that first performance would be ideal for a CD.
Right.
It was really, it was good, because she was there, and she was so happy with it.
And the CBC would have that original recording.
Oh, yes.
So it was in 1967 or 68? Well, I'm sure we have record of it at the foundation.
Yeah. Could be in 68.
Wow. Yeah. So after you moved to Hamilton, you were invited to be a professor here at McMaster University?
Yes.
In 1965?
Yes.
So you accepted this position and moved here?
Yes.
And then did you come back to Winnipeg a fair number of times, like over the years?
Yes. Even we had still the cottage at Victoria Beach for another 2 years, so the summers.
Right.
And then the summer festival, I was still... So it was very unexpectedly, very fast that we moved here, but already I had still concert engagements in Winnipeg. So even television and I went back for even 2 years, quite a few times.
Right.
And then this last concert was also in, I think it was 84 at the art gallery. I think that was the last concert I was invited.
Right, in Winnipeg. Right. So when was the last time that you saw Sonia before she died? Like, would you? She died in 1974.
74.
In December, at the end of 74.
I don't remember.
But you wouldn't have necessarily seen her very recently.
No.
Leading up to that.
No. I knew their routine, that they always bought a car there. Oh, you don't know that? No? That's why she died, because they wanted to pick up the car. No, you don't know?
Oh, they always... no, expand on it, yeah.
Oh, all right. So I knew that every 3 years or 4 years, so they went...
To
Europe, Frankfurt, or where is the place where the Volkswagen...
Oh, okay. Stuttgart.
Stuttgart. She died there.
Right. And she died in Stuttgart.
Yeah. So they wanted to pick up the car that time.
So they would buy a new Volkswagen.
So yes,
every 4 years.
and then they were driving. I don't know how many weeks or months. They spent 2-3 months there to be able to bring it back to Canada without taxes or I don't know.
Right.
So in that time, they wanted to pick up the car, and then they were in a bus. So and she stood up too soon. That's again typical her. So she was not waiting until the bus stopped. See, so she was approaching the exit. And then the bus had to stop for some reason very suddenly, and then so she fell. And this is how it happened, the hip. And during the operation, she passed away.
Right. So how did you hear about her dying?
I don't know. I must have, Ferdinand probably, he called me frequently. So we were so good friends that we were always given, I don't know even if I didn't see them, but we were constantly in touch. So I know all the details. And
so he would have probably called you from Europe, from Germany?
Yes. And so he told me exactly how it happened. And so it was a shock for me, because she was never ill. No,
yeah. And she was only 75.
Yes.
She wasn't...
Yes.
She wasn't,
and,
totally frail.
No, not at all. She was so energetic, so fast. So young people couldn't do
what she did.
Yeah. You see, the young people, that is a different generation. I know, as I went to teach for 32 years, so I saw those 60s, then all those young people moved so slowly. And then I was teaching their daughters, you see. So the same class, the mother, and then 20 years later. So then I showed them how their mother moved. They were laughing, that I just couldn't get in the hallway, I was always rushing because I had to go to different classes. I was teaching 5 different courses. I didn't teach violin. I taught everything else. Yeah.
Here at McMaster?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Conducting, orchestration, string methods, Kodai system, ear training, everything else. So, so I always had to rush different courses to teach, and so they were so slow. So, but not Sonia. So she was fast all the time, and she moved fast, and she was very happy. So it was a shock for me.
Yeah.
Shock for me, because I told you that I felt that something in my mother.
Right.
She
was represented.
Yeah.
Would Sonia have been sort of the same age as your mother? No, older. A little older than you.
No, my mother was in 96. When you said that it's 100, it's even 3 years older. My mother was 3 years older than she was.
Okay. So she was sort of his mother. Yes. And you said your mother was a musician as well.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And the same height and the same character. Somehow it was very, very similar.
Wow. I'm trying to think. So, did you perform any other compositions by Sonia? Like, did you perform the Caprices and?
No.
And that no.
But I was again adjudicating in Brandon for the competition.
Right.
And then also I was selecting tapes for the final or whatever. So I was.
You've been on the jury.
How shall I say? She gave me. I have all her compositions here, and she was hoping that even Ferdinand wanted the Caprices, some of the Caprices put on records. Mm-hmm. And then finally he asked somebody else because I didn't have time. I was full-time at McMaster. Then I was concertmaster of the orchestra here. Then I had my McMaster string quartet resident. Then I had a trio with Tsutsumi, Tsuyoshi Tsutsumi and Arthur Ozonis. Then I had my solo career. Then I became the Chamber Players of Toronto, musical director of Chamber Players of Toronto. So I had so much activities. I had no time to learn anymore.
Right, yeah.
New caprices.
Right. Well, you'll be interested to know the violinist Jasper Wood. Have you heard of him? He won the Eckhardt-Gramatté competition 2 years ago, or 2 or 3 years ago when it was the string competition, and he's a very young violinist, Canadian violinist, originally from New Brunswick, and has done very well for himself, and is presently based in Toronto, and is doing a lot of performing with orchestras, and he's just at the beginning of a career, and has been critically reviewed, very highly. And he is actually recording the Caprices, and it's coming out in September on a CD, the 10 Caprices. Yeah, and along with a set of 3 Caprices by the Canadian composer Gary Kulasha. Yes, he's also, and so the CD will be called Caprice. And he's coming out with that. So I'll be sure to send you a copy of that. So that's good, because the Caprices, the violin teacher from Brandon, Francis Chaplin, recorded them on a record.
Yes.
But they are not, these days, a record is not something that people purchase anymore.
I know, but you can put it
on a CD.
On the CD.
Yeah, I mean, in this case,
they put on that, because this is how it happened to mine.
Right.
On that, and then CD. So I hope that you can do the solo suite.
I'll take note of that, actually, because it's
so
true.
Many times she called, and she said she's willing to pay, because I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to learn again, but he
So when would this have been, like between 1985 and 19?
Oh, before he died, even.
Like even a year or two before he died.
Yes.
He was really wanting the solo suite on.
Yeah.
Okay, I should look into
very
that.
Very much. So that's why I felt that the piano trio is also on LP now. So because
right. Although it was just recently recorded by a trio at the University of Manitoba for
again the wrong notes.
Right. Well, absolutely.
It's on CD.
Well, it's on CD. It's Jack Behrens, who from the University of Western Ontario, who's editing the trio, was involved with a competition when Dr. Eckhardt was still alive. That some sort of composers competition that he started in Western Ontario, and Dr. Eckhardt supported it financially and gave them some money. And one of the things they wanted to do was the winners of this composers competition, where they had to submit works for chamber groups. The winning entries, or the first top 2 entries, and the piano trio were always going to get put on a CD.
I see.
And that project never got fully finished. But now that this trio at University of Manitoba has recorded this piano trio, Jack Behrens was going to put it on this CD, and so I'm not sure how that's all happening. But it's unfortunate that the wrong notes are still in there.
Not only the wrong notes, But because her guidance for the rehearsals and everything was, so our performance reflects exactly
what she was wanting.
Yes. So if Jack Barron just listens and compare, it's a big difference, because by the Griffin, they just played the notes. What's written.
So you heard the Griffin Trio performance on the CBC?
Yes.
And knowing what Sonia wanted, like there was just notes happening and not.
I don't want for that.
Right.
Yeah. So he should just listen to our performance and whoever learning now, and big difference. Big difference. Not only the notes, but the whole spirit. That was her. She came and she filled our rehearsals with her.
With her presence. Yeah. Did you
even I hear her voice, and it's many, probably you can see misspelling in her words, how she wanted us to, like, gay or whatever, and it's spelling mistakes. I hope they won't print that way.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I know that he's editing it and
the music, the pages,
right?
Because her words were
misspelled. Yeah. But I will definitely try and I will contact him. I'll even try and call him this weekend.
Okay.
And let him know that before this goes to print, he should absolutely look.
Yeah, I give you now, but I need assurance that I will get it back.
What I should do is take your copy. I will take it to Winnipeg and we'll make a photocopy. I will make a photocopy.
Is here, no?
Right, but I'm more sure that then I will send it directly back to you by courier.
Okay.
And then I will send him a copy. Because otherwise, if he,
I'm afraid.
Yeah, and then I have no control of you getting it back. So that's what I will do. I could even send it back this next week, like with a courier.
Okay. I even have I think the violin part also, not only the score, but the violin part. It's also some change there.
Yeah, that would be very valuable.
Okay, I will see.
Right.
Even bars are different.
One last question.
Yeah.
As you know, and you've commented on Sonia's very feisty personality and that kind of thing. How in the music milieu in Winnipeg in the 50s and early 60s while you were there,
how did they?
Yeah, how was she received and how? I mean, obviously you had a connection with her because you had the European
I was the only one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just expand on that.
Because she was so unique that everybody felt that she was odd. Okay, this kind of a oddness. For me, she was a genius. And a genius is not the regular people. You see, so
a genius is not ordinary.
or ordinary. Now that's it. And they felt that she's so different. They didn't feel that she was a genius. They just felt that it's not normal. She wasn't the ordinary. So she was, and perhaps she was very outspoken. And people were hurt because of the criticism.
Yeah, she wasn't afraid to speak her mind.
That's right. It's different.
Did she ever offend you? Like, did she ever? No.
No, never.
No.
Never. I was like a soul partner.
A soulmate, yeah.
A soulmate. And so she was open to me, so she was sarcastically criticizing everybody.